On Insightful Inspiration, Isabelle Landreville chats with a mosaic of brilliant individuals that help shape the insights industry. We live stream episodes to LinkedIn, and you can listen on all major podcast networks. Join us, and please subscribe so you won't miss our guests' insightful inspiration and hear what drives them and how they get inspired to be successful in the insights industry and beyond. Insightful Inspiration is brought to you by Sylvester & Co., an award-winning qualitative research firm with half a century of experience.
Welcome back to another episode of Insightful Inspiration, where we explore the evolving world of insights and research. I'm your host, Isabelle Landreville, the proud owner of Sylvester & Co. The insights landscape has transformed dramatically. Leaders have finally earned the seat at the table. So exciting. But now face higher stakes, increased pressure, and often fewer resources. How do we navigate this new reality while driving innovation in insights delivery? Our guest brings fresh perspectives to these challenges today. I'm thrilled to welcome Karen Lynch, head of content at Greenbook, an industry veteran. With her background in marketing research and innovation, Karen oversees content strategy for Greenbook's industry-leading platforms, hosts fireside chats with thought leaders, and co-hosts a weekly live stream show recapping essential industry intelligence. Through her work interviewing influential voices on the Greenbook podcast and her involvement in Women in Research and the Insights Career Network, Karen has unique insight into how research professionals can maximize their impact in today's demanding business environment. Welcome to Insightful Inspiration, Karen.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Always, always. And I think we've had perfect conversation or fireside conversations at IIEX and different sort of places throughout the last years. But I think this has been a long time coming. I'm really happy you're here to actually talk about the innovation. And I feel like you always get a first view of things that are up and coming because you get all the submissions, you get the behind the scenes thing, and you travel so much.
I do. Actually, I travel less now than I did as a qualitative researcher, as you can appreciate, because, qualitative researchers are often, living that road warrior lifestyle. But I do get to go to, the IAEX events, and there are several a year. So
Yeah.
it does seem like I'm out there a lot.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So first off, let's just ground ourselves and then we'll, do what qualies do, which is probe and just run with it. But just first off to ground ourselves, I think it's got to be 10 years or so, there was this notion of people were sort of talking about, I want a seat at the table. We want a seat at the table. We need to have a seat at the table. I feel now fast forward 10, 15 years, we have a seat at the table. It's been earned. There's a privilege there. We're here. How do you think that that impacts kind of research and sort of impacts what researchers or insights professionals actually need?
Yeah, it's a great way to start us off because what I have noticed is the pressure is on, right? So it impacts insights professionals to have that seat at the table because they have to optimize it. They have to leverage the role that they have. If they're seated around the table, they can't just be passive listeners to what's going on, which may have been a desire to help them, kind of plan and execute the right research for the right reasons, but they also have to be active participants in that room, right? They have to know what they're talking about. They have to be strategic thinkers. They have to contribute to and kind of strategic directional choices and decision making, or at least the conversations around decision making. So stakes are higher and pressure is on for them to, be very business minded. And depending upon what kind of an organization they're in, that comes with a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and I think it's not enough to just be a good researcher anymore.
It's not. And actually, I think that depending upon the company that we're at, I've had a few conversations with some VP of Insights and Analytics, for example, and you have to be able to kind of pair that consumer insights brain with the business analytics brain as well. So critical thinking skills are in high demand once you get to that level where you are maybe at those tables that those C-level execs are sitting at.
Yeah. And I think from one quality to the other, I think we've always been said, what, so what, now what? I feel like now it's the now what, and we're reverse engineering. Like there's this notion of we're already jumping ahead to now what. Do you think that has an impact on the what or on the research itself?
I think that it's becoming obvious that the research for a lot of reasons, for bandwidth reasons, for limited resources, whatever, it has to be the right research all of the time
Mhm.
now. So I think I used to hear myself saying all the time, like, it always comes back to the objectives. It's just that the difference right now is that the objectives might look really, really different than they used to be. Especially in qualitative. I used to do a lot of exploratory categorical research, but that research is sort of shifting a little bit. I don't know that we have the luxury of doing some of that real fun work that we used
Mhm.
to do maybe 20 years ago. Right now, everything has to be strategic and informed decision making. It can't necessarily be just reserved to help us think.
Yeah. Do you think that there's a bit of a difference between sort of getting feedback on things versus trying to understand people?
Oh, for sure, and I think qualitative shines, with the latter. I think getting feedback, but also getting, A/B testing, that sort of thing, like which campaign should we use, communication checking, all of
Mhm.
that stuff has a place, and it's probably going to remain important. But
Mhm.
that understanding human beings and consumer behavior, I think, that's a whole different, that's a whole different thing. Again, it comes back to what are the business challenges? What do we have to address with research?
Yeah, I feel like it's not a research question as much as a business objective or a business
Yeah,
problem.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's sort of we're starting higher up for some reason.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you're seeing that
And
too.
to build on that, it might not even be a business problem. It might just be a strategic direction,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It might just be, we don't have to solve a problem, but maybe the problem is how do we remain competitive, or
Mhm,
how do we sell even more? Like kind of like an aspirational goal that the business has, and
mhm.
research has to help them get there.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a time when insights professionals are kind of shining the light for business teams to move in a certain direction.
And I think there's a lot of innovation, there's a lot of shifts, and you've got like a back seat, a back office or behind the scenes kind of first eye view of it. What are like the top 2 or 3 challenges that now that insights professionals have a seat at the table, they're kind of seeing?
So I think it's, on the one hand, it's a bit of um, a bit of a catch 22, because they now that they have this seat at the table, they have to kind of show their thinking, right? The
Yeah.
good news is the people that I've talked to that are in these, roles like VP Insights and Analytics, as I was saying, like they're pretty much delivering, right? They have the people that exceed and excel are really doing a great job. They're actually
Mhm.
quite commendable as individuals. So I think that the challenges might be for an insights professional is, one, do I have that confidence? Do I have that kind of do I have that do I have those skills? Do I have that ability to think that way? Or do I really just want to represent the voice of the customer? And those are two very different things, right? Like, you can represent the voice of the customer, but if you also want to, walk the walk in that room, you have to have these other skills. I think bandwidth is always an issue for all of these. Again, I think about a lot of brand side researchers, they are just trying to do more with less headcount, with less money. So I think that challenge is evergreen almost, if not more pronounced right now. They're
Mhm.
trying to do a lot, trying to get a lot done.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is a challenge, and it's a challenge that I've heard repeated in a few different ways, but it's the idea that we've been chasing and promoting actionable insights. Like a lot of firms are like, our insights are actionable. Well, they're only actionable if somebody takes action on them, and
Fair.
that is often out of the hands of the insights professional.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge, because they're like, I've
Yeah.
delivered these insights, and then the powers that be are not acting on them. And so there's like a disconnect that they're like, I can
Mm.
only do so much. So they get frustrated, I think, by kind of that chain internally, that I can
Yeah.
deliver actionable insights all day, but if the team isn't moving ahead, what are we doing here?
And does that mean though that then insights like partners have to be more of partners, like they have to be brought in and sort of shepherd the insights sort of for a longer period, or sort of champion the insights further into the
The organization.
organization?
I think there is some of that. I think that that again, if I go back to kind of when I wore the partner hat,
Mhm.
I think really working in lockstep with your client to be like, how can I help you to either socialize these? You want me to do a second presentation for people higher up? You
Yeah.
want me to come into the boardroom with you when you go? Can I give you a one pager that you can circulate? Like, how do I help you circulate these? Or how do I help you do follow-up research to the
Mhm.
questions that may come at you afterwards? So I think the real if you can if you can adopt the philosophy, I used to work hard to do this, but of my job is to make my client really look good internally in their organization.
Yeah.
If people can adopt that philosophy, then I think that that's you doing your part as a provider to
Mhm.
make sure those insights get the attention and potentially the action that comes out of them.
Yeah, and that really resonates with me. I feel like I keep saying I get up in the morning to make other people look good or my
Yeah,
clients look good. Yeah, for sure. I
yeah,
That definitely resonates. I think the other thing listening to what you're saying is that yes, critical thinking is huge. The business sort of lens is huge, but I think also there's a greater need for the insights people on the client side to be amazing communicators
yeah,
and to cater to their internal targets as well without probably losing sight of the insights.
yeah,
Because you tell a story in different ways. You tell a story, more than one time. The more you tell it, the more it becomes kind of a thing, and you don't want it to take a life of its own and then play telephone.
yeah,
We're the same age. You know what I mean when
yeah,
I say
yeah.
play
Yes,
telephone.
I do. I
But
do.
yeah, but I think there's something also about making sure that the story lives on, caters to the audience to have the desired impact, but caters to the audience. And depending on who you're socializing to, you might not take the same angle
Yeah.
for the story. Do you feel like, are you seeing that as well? That this need of being able to socialize and communicate in
Yeah,
further?
and I think it comes down to there's a conversation I had with a speaker just a couple weeks ago. The variety of stakeholders that might be paying attention to the research now. So if the research is much more strategic in feel,
Hmm.
right, you might have a stakeholder there from marketing, right? We insights professionals traditionally are in service to CMOs or the marketing teams, but you might also be leading up to the CX team, right? And you might also be informing just the customer support team. You have to recognize the different needs of a lot of different stakeholders. So
Yeah.
I think that you might need to communicate to them differently, or you might need to pull findings that kind of meet cross needs, because there might be a lot of motives in that room that aren't articulated. And
Mhm.
you know, you probably cannot clarify enough, what does so and so want to get out of this research initiative? Or, hey, I noticed so and so is in the room or in the conversations. What do they want to get out of this research? Even
Yeah.
if you and your client are clear about the objectives, maybe there's some other ones floating around out there. And for you to really deliver what stakeholders need, you have to understand all those stakeholders, who they are and what they want.
Yeah. And I feel it's really interesting how you were saying, if you want a top line or something to socialize after the fact, but I feel there's also a lot of upfront that I've been seeing. And even in our sort of how we manage projects, there's always a kickoff meeting. It's never just with our partner, like on the client side. We
Right.
bring in their team, we help them sort of manage internal stakeholders and sort of to make sure that we have a kickoff meeting. So those kind of I'm looking at this, or this is kind of interesting. There's something about getting in a room and sort of level setting sort of what our mandate is and what this project is all about, so
Yeah.
that those tiny nuances, is those sort of little lenses do
Yeah.
shine through and do actually are either we say no, but at least we don't say no at the debrief and after the fact. We might
Exactly.
actually say
Exactly.
no at the. So I think scoping a project is even more important nowadays than.
Yeah.
Would you say that?
Yeah. Oh, I definitely would. I also just think that people are very busy right now, which might seem like so cliche, but the reality is they need to make sure that it's clear what they're going to get out of an initiative and what needs of theirs are going to be met. And even on a call, there's a really good chance that somebody might be tuning out while you're talking at some point, and you might have to repeat yourself. And, you certainly might need to ask them overt questions to bring them back into the conversation. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of facilitating and moderating that has to happen, even on those kickoff calls, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like I moderate the clients more so than I moderate the participants sometimes. Unless they're kids with ADD on a Saturday morning.
Yeah. Yeah, good luck with that. Have lots
Um,
of choice, yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. It's It's interesting. Yeah. So we're talking like between the vines, we're talking about attention span. Let's face it.
Yeah. Yes,
It
for
is a
real.
different. It is a different reality today than it was. Do we consume insights the same way we used to?
Do we consume insights the same way? That's a really interesting question because it makes me think like, which definition of insights are we using in this context?
Fair.
So I'll kick that back at you.
In terms of insights, well, I think that I'm a qualie, so I think an insight is that like that intuitive kind of aha kind of, it's a feeling, it's a nugget. It could just be one person, it could just be
Yeah,
one thing, but it is that nugget that sort of shifts the entire paradigm or actually opens up to something. But so it is that snappy kind of phrase initially.
yeah,
But I think how you bring it to life and how you bring people along
yeah,
to get to that conclusion, or to sort of buy into this and believe into it so that they're empowered and they sort of go with it to make it
yeah,
actionable, to your earlier point, I think is different. I don't think people are sitting through a 30 slide deck even.
yeah. No, I don't think so. And it's really interesting because the little sidebar I was going on in my brain there was, when you're in a qualitative setting, you are very mindfully present. Unlike a lot of work that we do. So, like, when you're sitting in that room, I used to say all the time, like, "I'm in my zone, man. Nothing else matters than what's happening in this room right now. I don't know what's happening in the back. I don't know what's happening in all these people's private lives, but all that matters is what we're discussing right now in this moment." And it's a really wonderful kind of sweet spot
Mhm.
today when you have that really focused, intentional conversation. Even folks in the back are not as mindful because they might be looking at their emails or having a sidebar conversation, or maybe they're getting food from the platters of food. Who knows?
Mhm.
Um, so I think that that's something that a qualitative researcher actually can kind of feel good about. Some ROI on the money spent on that work is like, these are mindful conversations that you're having.
Mhm.
Whether you're bringing that same mindfulness into a presentation, for example, you have less control over that because you don't know if you're presenting virtually, if people are doing other things, or even if you're in a boardroom, if people are checking emails or and all that. So I think there might be something to that. Like, how do we make for more mindful presentations? How do we make sure that when we share a deck with somebody, they're actually looking at the right things, or they're
Yeah.
actually like, you know what, this executive summary, spot on. If they read that word for word, great.
Yeah.
Some pressure there to recognize there is an attention span issue, and we do need to make sure we're doing our best
Mhm.
to not try to change it, but
Yeah.
to like honor it and recognize it. It is what it is, and we're all guilty of it.
Yeah, and we can't go against it because
Yeah.
then we are not, I think it's gonna go again, well, first off, I'm a supplier, so I'll go out of business if I
Yeah.
don't get let's just call it a day, but and I have to
Yes.
make payroll, but I think there is something about the fact that we're not doing the work we do for ourselves. We're not fulfilling
Right.
our own curiosity. It's not our business, it's not our thing. So I mean, for it to have impact is what makes the work we do meaningful and sort of why we get out of bed. So I think we have to be careful about that. But it's interesting how also, because we've done a lot of more and more stuff online,
Yeah.
more and stuff, where people don't physically have to show up in a space, don't necessarily have to, can multitask. We've
Yeah.
made it
Yeah.
really easy for clients to multitask
It really
or
has.
to just, Pandora's box. We're doing this. And while life keeps going on your end, we're doing this over here. And then it brings back. It's interesting how now, beyond the presentation, beyond the debrief, whether it be taking on the form of a podcast, of like videos and recordings and shorter decks and more design and all of that, I think there's also the fact that we've tried to bring them as part of the journey. So
Yeah.
we're kind of making it into sort of a learning journey. So we learn together
Yeah.
and sort of break down the research design into more bite-sized pieces
Yeah.
with and checking in. So you know how well, you'll know this. There's magic that happens in that, whether it be 10 minutes, 15 minutes of backroom conversation,
Yeah.
where a
Absolutely.
guide becomes just that, a guide, and you go,
Yeah.
let's pivot, let's change this, let's change the order, let's ask this. We know now this. How about we
Yeah.
build on that?
Yeah.
I think if you do online stuff that tends to be more passive in experience,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
find that sort of cutting it down in bite-sized kind of pieces and bring them in,
Yeah.
actually also mitigates the surprise element at the end.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, but I don't think someone who has a seat at the table wants to be surprised at
No,
that
they
table.
probably don't. And, you know, pressure on, again, when you think about the independent researchers out there, pressure's on to kind of recap at the end of the day, like tell people what you heard all day.
Yeah.
It's important because certainly in an online situation, could be somebody who could like pop in for like 15 minutes and be like, that's all I heard. So there might be one thing that they heard, but they're like, that was interesting, because they also want to like puff themselves up that they heard the thing, right? So they'll be like, I heard this one thing. And you have to kind of give it context if that's what comes up in a debrief
Mhm.
conversation. But you really have to summarize almost daily, like, here's what we heard today, or here were my big takeaways for today. And hopefully you don't have that last group bias going on there, but probably do.
And why wouldn't you? It is
Why wouldn't you?
why
Exactly.
wouldn't you? It keeps it keeps us on our toes.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and I mean, I think though, if we, you know, it all comes back to empathy. If we have empathy for the stakeholders and we
Yeah.
think, why are they behaving? They're not behaving this way for the most part. They're not behaving that way because they're jerks. They're behaving that way because they're pulled in a million different directions.
Yeah.
So if we have empathy for them just as much as we have empathy for individuals who are in our research, then we can say, okay, how can I help this person who was only able to hear one group? Or how can I help this person who popped in for 10 minutes?
Mhm.
Or how can I help the person that had to leave early because they had a train to catch, or, you know, whatever it
Yeah.
might be. So
It comes back to how we communicate and how we collaborate.
yeah,
So if you have a seat at the table, you have to communicate better and socialize better, but also as a partner, same thing, so that,
yeah,
to your point, you're delivering on all of that. So it's really interesting how communication is more so important than ever in this time where we're stretched on time, we don't have the attention span we used to.
yeah,
It's really interesting because the saying goes, I didn't have time, so I didn't write you a short letter, I wrote you a
yeah,
long one. So it's
exactly.
really interesting, you know?
Yeah.
It's an
No, it
interesting
is. And I think
yeah.
that as you know, addressing the age thing generationally,
Mhm.
there are, you know, lots of people who are starting kind of their experience in the work world with these short form communications, whether it's a Slack message or maybe it's, whatever, it could even be a text, but like short form correspondences rather than the habit of picking up the phone.
Mhm.
Not every organization is set up to be like answer the phone or make a Slack call, whatever it might be, but they're
Yeah.
doing a lot of short form written communication with one another. And misunderstandings will happen when you are relying on that kind of communication.
Mhm.
So pressure's on internally to, to also think about communication almost every day
Yeah.
of your life. Like, what is the best way to communicate, not just an insight, but with this particular coworker or with this
Mhm.
client? Really have to take a step back and look at communication broadly about how it affects your workday.
Yeah, and I think, it goes back to culture, whether it be actual culture, the classic definition, or organizational culture,
Yeah.
or even language. I mean, 2 people working together and their second language is kind of
Yeah.
interesting as well, you know?
Yes.
So on the flip side of thing, are there some innovations that you've seen many and you've heard of many, but what are the innovations that are truly changing how organizations consume and act on research these days? What would
Yeah.
you
I
say?
mean, can we get through any kind of conversation without talking about generative AI?
I
Can we
was
do
gonna say, I
that?
don't wanna use AI as part of the question, but
However, I mean, the efficiencies gained from using generative AI,
yeah.
lots of tools, I talk about this all the time, but using them to help with data synthesis, using them to say, using them, whatever tool is your tool of choice. Like, this is what I want to say, but I need to say it in a bullet, in a single bullet.
Yeah.
Help me do that. Help me synthesize this concept. Help,
Mhm.
like just asking it for help as if it is your, trusted research
Yeah.
assistant when it comes to that communication. That is a smart use of generative AI tools. Whether you are, considering, synthetic data or digital twins and really working with AI, the artificial intelligence features that lots of platforms are building in, that's an entirely different thing. But there can
Mhm.
be great efficiencies when you use it as your research aid,
Yeah.
so I think that we absolutely have to address that. I think when it comes to like analytics, and it's a little different for qualitative researchers, but dashboards are really the way to get that data visualization those are getting sharper and sharper every day. They're getting more and more interactive. So insights professionals 100% are tapping into the tools that allow them, if you're on the data side of the insights and analytics industry. I think knowledge hubs are a really big deal right now, or repositories for all qual, for example. Like, imagine if it was something you could easily access as all the research you've ever done in a certain category, and you can say, this particular insight or finding from these groups reminded me of groups in 2017 pre-COVID. Let's do a compare and contrast.
Yeah.
And instead of having to search, search in your own Word documents, you had a smart assistant, to kind of say, oh yeah, I got that for you, So I think knowledge hubs are another kind of big deal. So look, it's not a surprise that research technology is a big deal. It
is a big deal. And it's interesting about the knowledge hub, because we are close to 55 years old as a company, and therefore our server is quite old.
Yeah.
Not physically, like not actually, but we go way back, and we have, some clients we've done qual for, maybe 20 plus years. So it's really interesting how that knowledge hub has always been serve intuitive because of the relationship, but now we've actually included AI so that we can actually do it. It's interesting because now people go, oh, let's do this. I'm like, well, we did this already. How about we sort of build on it, or let's refresh if we need. So I think that creates efficiencies as well, because then you're not working from scratch. You're not having to redo. You can be smarter about it. So it's not
for sure. And that is
faster, not necessarily, I think, smarter.
I think that's exactly it. It's smarter research. It's saying, especially if we are tight on money, or if our budgets are a little bit tighter than we'd like them to be, let's be really smart about our spend. And we don't have to research that. We have some evidence of that, or we can devote, a little bit of time towards that to validate what we might have heard before. But we can invest our time or our money in this way, which is what we really need to do. So I think there's always going to be a place for that type of work where you're like saying, we've done this before, maybe we validate, but for the most part, we can move on from that and pull up those older learnings.
Yeah.
And then also track whether people's behavior has changed.
Yeah, which I think is kind of interesting. And I think there's also this notion of phasing it out. I'm like, that's another smart way of going at it. I'm like, do we have to do the entire thing in one full swoop?
Right.
Maybe we serve, not to piecemeal it, but there's this notion of, when you learn about something and you've never really deep dived, there is sometimes value in coming up for air and letting it sort of simmer for a while and sort of starting to, and then going back. I'm not saying 6 months and lengthening the entire thing. If anything, you can run while you're learning, which is kind of interesting.
It's like an iterative process that you're talking about. Right? Like, let's get out there. Let's do something. And then,
taking away, stopping everything, going away, doing the work, and then coming back. There's this notion that you're closer to the action. You can still act as you're learning and sort of keep going, which is kind of an interesting way of approaching it too. Yeah. So is there, dare I ask, any other innovation that are not AI sort of fueled or propelled? Or are we coming up blank when I dare to ask that these days?
There is so much of it right now.
I know. That's why I'm laughing.
Is there there's a lot of data quality, but data quality or data kind of data integrity measures that are being taken right now. So I think there's some great innovation in that space. There's a lot that can be done to make sure that participants in the research are who they say they are and are actually legitimately on spec with who you need them to be. So I think there is some innovative work happening in that space. It's not quite as tangible as these platforms that are doing so much. Automation, I think, in general, helps with so much of that. If you can, if you can kind of shorten up a process on that side of things, on the sample side and on the recruiting side of things. So I do think there are strides happening there out of necessity. Kind of has to be done there.
Is there something also, and I know there's work has been done on like shortening surveys and making them more interactive and sort of more intuitive and so forth, but I feel also the right people will show up for the right reasons if we also make it fun and worth their while, right? In terms of experience.
Yes.
Is there some are there some innovations there? Is there something happening there to make it more fun and engaging as a process for participants, either on the qual or quant side that you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some pretty cool, kind of survey work where, I even hesitate to say this because it's, if you have a large qualitative base in your audience, where they're asking kind of quality scale questions or questions that they're asking. I say quality scale, they're asking qualitative open ends,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And therefore generating qualitative data at scale. So it's not qualit scale per se, but it is, qualitative data that they're getting to the nth degree. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that when you do that in a survey that eliminates some survey fatigue, because you're like, oh, wait a minute, I don't have to just press,
Yeah.
3 or 4 or 5 or 2 or 1, I don't have to like press a number or give it a rating or a ranking, but now I'm actually thinking. I think that does engage people a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think that is something that I have seen more are qualitative open ends, which doesn't surprise me one bit. That's where gold is, right? That's where gold is. That's
Yeah,
when
and
people know
I
what.
think with AI and the back end things, it's probably easier to do as well, because you're not stuck coding it the same way or the manual way anymore. So I
Yeah,
think you can probably, like, it's interesting. A few years back, probably 5 years back, people were saying, "Oh, AI, qual, blah blah blah." I'm like, I think from a qual 5 years ago, I think from a qual standpoint, I would say expect more of your open endeds.
yeah,
Is kind of 5 years ago what I kept on saying.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
that the now it's changed and it's evolved, but such at a rapid pace. Like, are we as an industry properly keeping up with our tech and our innovation?
Well, I think, I have a bias because at IIX, we really are focused on that. We get, we get, we have a startup competition. So
Yep.
we're constantly, seeing what's new and kind of what the innovative businesses are. So it's basically because of who we are that we're staying in the know. And at our events, we have those, the cream of the crop come and present their 5-minute pitches to try to win in that competition. But we definitely have a penchant for who are the startups, what are they doing, what are they up to, and if you want to find out about that, that's our events are the place to go for that. So I'm
Mhm.
kind of biased in that. I think that what I have heard from different brands, for example, is that they're like, they don't want to know more. They're like, I got my ResTech platform. I'm good. Or, I have my AI vendor. I'm good. Like they don't want the information overwhelm
Yeah.
that can come from the universe of new research technology providers.
Mhm.
So it's almost like, there are places to go to stay on trend and to track,
Mhm.
and we will continue to provide that. But also, we have to recognize not everybody can take it all in.
Yeah.
Not everybody is as hungry for it as the next person in the room. That's just the reality. Is some people are like, I just need to do good research, and it doesn't matter what the bells and whistles are of the latest innovations. I just need to do good research.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not about the shiny new toy, it's about what
Yeah,
it allows you to do.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Which is the shiny new exciting thing, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that, well, let me ask you this way. What blind spots do you see insight leaders developing once they achieve influence in their organizations? Like, what are the blind spots that you're seeing or maybe hearing of?
Yeah, it's interesting because like I said, I think a lot of the people that once they kind of achieve, they've hit this level of like proficiency that I'm like,
Mhm.
God, I have mad respect for that person.
Mhm.
But also what I've heard from some industry peers, and people who are maybe a step below, who haven't gotten to the VP level or certainly the C level, but maybe they're, senior insights professionals um, is empathy for their staff, their team,
Mhm.
um, their team's workloads, their team's kind of work-life balance, their team's just humanity. That to me is a big watch out. I mean, it happens week after week. I'm talking to somebody who's like, how do they not understand that I really do have to leave by 5:30 to pick up a child to take care? Like this isn't because it's not because I'm slacking off. It's because I really do have to leave. I can't do these late night meetings. Or somebody who's, like they show up late for work and their chief marketing officer who they report to seems irritated that they showed up, 10 minutes late because there was traffic. Like, where's our empathy for human beings? And
Mhm.
I think that is the watch out if you're if you're in an organization and you forget that your team is a team of people, team of human beings.
Yeah.
I feel really lucky to work at a small organization right now that puts that kind of first and foremost. Like there's, and I'm sure, qualitative research firms pride themselves on empathy for all of their participants. They probably have that, at a firm like yours as well, right? It's like, but I think internally at organizations and certainly on the brand side, I have seen less of that. And maybe it's the dynamic internally at kind of in the corporate world that, they're clamoring to be on top, or they're looking for that promotion or that raise, or they want to be seen by the top level executives as hungrier. I don't know exactly what it is. I haven't cracked that nut, but that would be a watch out, I would say, is to those people listening, don't lose your humanity on the way to the top. Because you're nothing without the team that supports you.
And I mean, so I had Maria Ross on the podcast, who, is empathy activist and sort of has this fabulous book about leading with empathy. And she talks about, leading with empathy being a team sport. And there is this back and forth sort of showing. And I think the key thing is also your headspace. I'm assuming here, so correct me if I'm wrong, but this notion of, I grew up in the business world, sort of work hard, play hard kind of thing. But I think now there's intent more so than ever before that's kind of needed. So as a quality, we learn for a living. So what is learning? Learning means that you're constantly out of your comfort zone. You're constantly trying to figure things out. You're trying to communicate. You're trying to please everybody. They're instill joy, always be positive and so forth. So I think you have to act very strategically, very intentionally on how you sort of do things. Because to build empathy for a living, you need a lot of patience, let's face it. But I think also to make it sustainable, now it's not about working hard and playing hard. It's about being intentional and then recharging. I think you have to be so much more intentional with your time off. Do you have a second opinion there?
Yeah, I had a second opinion. My sweet beloved dog Maggie gave a second opinion, said, yes, what she says.
But I think there's something about recharging, whether that be reading a book, regardless of, but I think just not doing anything is probably not recharging properly either. So we take it for granted. We're talking about qualities in our company. So our company's smaller in scale as well. So probably same size, but no one works on the weekend unless it's a choice because we went skiing on a Wednesday and, have to pick up on a Saturday or something happened. But by design, the weekend is they're not work days because we also plan research from 9 to 5 and action research. 5 to 9. I think there's a bit of that too, but
and I remember when I was either self-employed or working for a full service company, and I was living that qualitative lifestyle, and so much happens at night. When you're involved in that lifestyle, what you need to do to recharge, right? You're like, I can't report in at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning or something like that if I was up till 11 o'clock debriefing groups. Like there's just no way. So I think that you learn when you're in the qualitative space how to self-monitor some of that burnout and regulate and say, you know what, it was a really intense 4-day week of 16-hour days. I need my Friday. I'm going to fly home and I'm going to I'm going to maybe go out to lunch, or I'm going to, I don't know, get some groceries in the house for the weekend or something. Like, I think you learn to manage your calendar in a very flexible way when you're a qualitative researcher. And hopefully if you are a qualitative researcher in an organization, the organization supports that.
Of course.
Very demanding career. And your time really, you should be able to balance your time. So I think that's one thing. I think that, we need to be self-aware also. Like, I think we need to know, like, I got to check out, my Aura ring might tell me that I'm stressed, but it's only going to tell me that if I look in the app,
Fair. Fair. And am I going to listen to my
and are you going to listen to your Aura ring? But if you find yourself like being quick to react to something, or if you find yourself feeling tense or unable to think critically or unable to stay creative, like, give yourself the break that you need. Like, some of the accountability for that is on us.
I think we have to be better than ever at setting boundaries. It's not about, like, yes, bring your whole self and authenticity and whatnot, but it's not authenticity as much as sort of boundaries. I think you have to be kind to yourself, and you have to serve and convey those boundaries in a don't impose your boundaries, just
Yeah.
own up to your boundaries. I think there's a huge difference in how you convey and how you manage that,
Yeah.
and how you act on it as well.
Yeah.
I was, we as a company, as a person, my least favorite word is no.
Yeah.
Because in my land of unicorns and magic, there's always a way, there's always 5 solutions to every problem, there's always something, it's
Yeah.
always magic, it's always possible. Make it
Yeah.
very crafty and creative. But so I hate the word no, but there's magic in saying yes, this way.
Yeah.
Yes, that way. Yes, when blah blah blah. So I think there's
Yeah.
magic in that too, which is
Yeah.
keeping that positive sort of. So I think that's another kind of interesting one. Yeah, so communicating critical bound and critical thinking, communicating more so than ever. I think there's really interesting. And is this sort of faster, cheaper thing still kind of on everybody's
I
brain,
wish I
or
could tell
are
you
we
that it
past
wasn't,
it?
but it is. Faster,
Still,
cheaper, better, and
yeah.
how you define better, it could be, higher quality, or it could be, deeper, insights, which is another kind of, anyway, different term that we could go down a rabbit hole with. But, yeah, it's still alive and well, right? It is what people are seeking in our industry. They really want that, and I think that is one reason why some of the tools that are out right now and some of the technology that is out is helping people to think, I can get all 3 things at once,
Yeah.
So it is, therefore, that is the proof that it is still kind of the coveted trifecta of
Yeah.
research. It's
Yeah.
still out there as a thing. It's like it hasn't gone anywhere. And if anything, it's resurged based on kind of the
Mhm.
latest exponential growth of
Yeah.
technology.
We're still chasing perfection.
Yeah, for real, for
For
real.
real, like, for real. Are we taking the humanity and the journey out of it? I mean, yeah, I think we're very, end driven, destination driven, result driven. Are we taking the journey out of it a bit? Are we still caring that at the end of the day, these are people?
I think that pressure is on the insights professionals to make sure that
Mhm.
that's at the heart of all of this, is that,
Yeah.
like, hey, you're in business to serve people, so let's not forget them. And it's that
Mhm.
kind of alluded to this in the beginning, like, if the role was traditionally represent the voice of the consumer in the boardroom, you still have to do that. You
Mhm.
just have to do it with the ability to think strategically also. So it's a
Yeah.
yes and for your career. It's
Fair.
it's not
Yeah.
a we set one aside for the other. It's you have to do both. And if you don't, then those business leaders who do not hear the customer's voice regularly, they won't stand a chance.
Yeah.
We have to get that, but get that in front of them all the time. Like, remember why we're doing this. The customer stories are a big deal, and I think the
Mhm.
right companies, and the successful companies haven't lost sight of that.
Yeah. Like, we were doing profiles the other day, and I was debriefing, and it was really interesting how this young brand manager came up to me after the debrief, and she said, I didn't understand who these people were. I couldn't understand. I just saw my parents, because it was an older target.
Yeah, yeah,
I just saw
yeah.
my parents, and I said, there's questions in there I didn't want to ask my parents
Yeah.
to know about my parents. I'm like, fair enough. I can totally relate to that one.
Yeah.
And they're like, they're fun. Like, you made me, not only do I understand what I need to do now and I feel empowered, I really fell in love with them, which I
Mm,
thought was
yeah, it's
exactly
beautiful.
that, which I
I
think
mean,
is
that's the
exactly
gift of
that.
qualitative research, right? Like,
Probably.
that's some of the stuff that
Yeah.
I don't wanna say I long for, which sounds, like, so poetic, but, that is where the gold was in that industry, right? That is those conversations where you really understand people at a very raw human level. God,
Mhm.
there's nothing like it, and to bring that to individuals, to show that to teams firsthand, like, this is who you are in the
Mhm.
business of supporting. Isn't it beautiful? It's really beautiful. My
Yeah,
gosh, it's so
there's something.
poetic, but yes.
Yeah, no, but I get it, like, and I
Yeah,
feel I think we're, as qualities, we're wired differently as well, up to a
yeah,
certain point. You become your job, whether
yeah,
you like it or not.
yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to, Rob Volpe the other day, and we are like, does your husband actually, my husband surly at one point will go, "You're moderating me." I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
sorry." Like, he can't really, like, it's part of who you are at this point. Is there any, if, like, for the insights professional out there that wanna, like, that have been in the game for a really long time and wanna sort of be at the front edge and sort of keep that edge and
Yeah,
be at what's the one thing, aside from just saying AI, which,
yeah.
is there one thing that they should focus on to really pave the way to make sure that they keep their edge and they're on top of like what's up and coming?
So, I mean, there's something that I've said before, which is like always be curating. But if you have like this, if you're a lifelong learner, if you're one of those people with a growth mindset, I'm preaching to the choir, but
Mhm.
it's take in information. Don't get complacent and lazy.
Yeah.
Read. If AI is not of interest to you, then you know what? Study up on brand tracking. Like be the best brand tracker
Mm.
that you could ever be. Or, if you're all about like audience measurement and then by golly, take it all in so that you are the most versed in that niche that you operate in. If it's qualitative, and you want to like stay ahead of the curve qualitatively, like make sure you get to all the content that you can, whether it's reading it or going to the conference or talking to the vendors. Like you are in control of what you stay ahead of. And that's on you, right? So and I don't mean you personally, I mean
No,
whoever's
I know.
but that's on you, Isabel. No.
Yes, Karen.
But you know what I mean? Like
No,
take
I totally understand.
responsibility for your learning
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be hand fed to you anywhere,
No.
but gosh, if you set goals at the beginning of the year and you say, I want to learn everything there is to know about um, you know, I'm trying to think of like some topics or whatever about, cultural insights and cultural intelligence, then do the work, do the
Yeah.
research, treat it like it's your thesis.
Yeah.
And this is the year that I'm going to lean all in. You want to learn more about ethnography? Learn more about ethnography, study up, do the work.
Yeah.
And the new methods and the innovations will come your way if you're invested in the work and the learning and the growing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that would be kind of the overarching answer is discover what you want to be ahead of the curve in and just be ahead of the curve in it.
Yeah.
And I can give you an example. When I first joined Greenbook, which is, largely kind of a content marketing, it's a business to business media company, but we do a lot of content marketing for our clients, right? Who come to us to either exhibit at events, or maybe they come to us to be host a webinar with us or be in one of our tech showcases. So my company sent me to content marketing world. So I'm like, here I am at the first event I've ever been to focused on content marketing. And I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
this is surreal. There are people, I'm in the insights industry and I feel like I've been to every insights event, that you can imagine. But the second I stepped into an event that was like, this is where I need to be. So if you work for a lot of CPG companies, well, get yourself to just a CPG conference, get to a packaging exhibit, go to, Natural Food Expo in California, like get into the spaces where your clients are, and learn something adjacent to what you're learning right
And
this
I think that's the
innovation will
key.
happen.
Yeah, I think that's the key. Stretch your thinking by stretching your playground. I think
Absolutely.
learning is getting outside of your comfort zone.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
And
that may be in a
it's
totally different space, right?
completely.
But
Yeah.
that's where you are going to learn what's innovative, because what's innovative at one company isn't innovative at the next. Like, again, there are companies that are like, I just need the newest brand tracker. I keep saying that because it's a fairly,
Yeah. I get it.
you
I
get it.
totally get it.
But there are some that are like, I've made a really innovative brand tracker through these tools or whatever. So if that's your thing, then find that content and learn up on it, right? As opposed to, we can go all in on what's innovative and qualitative, and there's just so much content that you could qualitatively analyze all over the internet. There's some great stuff, and there's some great platforms to bring multimedia processing into everything that you're learning. Like, there's a ton you can do thanks to technology in the qualitative space, but you also have to really want it, really want it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Oh, we could keep going.
We could for sure.
We could. Definitely keep going. You have to come back. So
Happy to. Anytime.
perfect. I'm sure you are on to me and you know this. So I finish every single episode. So we're 2 seasons in. And I finish every single episode with the 5 same questions, which is kind of drawing inspiration from Bernard Pivot's Bouillon Culture, which is probably in your mind more so James Lipton from the Actor Studio. Okay. I'm not going to ask you what your favorite swear word is, though. Can keep it clean. So here we go. So what profession other than your own would you like to try?
So I would be can I expand slightly, or do I have to
Oh,
say it
no,
really?
no, you can you
I want
it's an
the idea of
open-ended question, Karen, go
being
for it.
the I know, I'm like, "Ooh, is there a wrong answer here?"
No.
I wouldn't even just say like a writer. I would say a novelist working in a beach house, kind of without anybody else, just like me and a laptop typing away to the sound of the waves, like full on novelist, not even a writer, but somebody who it's like, I write books for a living and that's it. That is sort of the that is the other thing that if I was independently wealthy and didn't work, that's what I'd be doing. You'd find me on the
Really?
shore.
Really?
Fact.
Why
Yes.
is that? What's the inkling? What does that
No,
sort
you
of
know what? I could probably, bring it back to like when I was a child and I wrote a book at a very young age. And I've just always kind of chased professional work and stayed here. But yeah, fiction novelist.
Hmm.
That's the other occupation.
Yeah. And just to build on that, you said there's a lot of fun stuff happening in qual and
Yeah.
innovation in qual. Is there something that, not saying that, this is breaking news and you would, but just in terms of ranking it or sort of getting a feel for it, is there something innovative in qual that's happening that we go, "Oh, I wish I was still a quali."
Well, by the way, that happens to me a lot, by the way.
But is there something that
It
you're
happens
doing right
more
now and you're
often than
like,
I can
"Oh
admit.
my, I wish I could do this tomorrow or try
Yeah.
this out
You know
tomorrow."
what? I love influencer marketing. Stop it, Maggie. I'm so sorry. She would really like to contribute. She's
That's
done with me
okay.
ignoring her.
Usually,
Um,
Buddy stays home on podcast days is exactly for that. Don't worry
I
about it.
do like influence. I know I threw you by being completely anyway. I do like influencer marketing, and I do like the idea of kind of studying like a day in the life stuff. We had somebody from
Mm,
YouTube come to one of our events one time and talk about kind of the online digital ethnography, like a day in the life of like a YouTube creator.
mm,
And I would love to do day in the life stuff for people like that. Like,
yeah,
Instagram influencers, a day in a life. I sure would like to like follow them around and see
yeah,
everything that they do because I think that is interesting that there are people that are just out there kind of, carving their own way by being creators. I mean, again,
mhm.
there's a common theme, and that's
Yeah,
my
of course.
creative side, which doesn't always manifest um, very tangibly. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'd love to just do some ethnography, day in the life stuff of
Yeah.
certain professions.
There's
Follow
something
someone
that was,
around for 12 hours.
it brings back to memory. So I forget the details now, and I can loop back, but there's a study that was done at the same day. They sent, they did a day in the life. They sent film crews across the states, 20 different people on the
Mhm.
same day, and they sort of did a day in the life of these 20 people on that day, and
Yep,
they made kind of a movie out of it and a
yep,
docu-series out of it just to bring to life the differences between across the United States, but also across generations, across genders, across life stages, and so forth. It was that, I think, if we could do that, like
yeah.
if that would be possible, I think that would be
There's this great book, it's like a young adult fiction book, and, it was called Every Day. David, I wanna say Leviathan or something, Levithan. Anyway, the book was called Every Day, and it was about this kind of spirit who every day woke up in a different human body
mm,
and therefore had a different lived experience every single day. And
mm,
sometimes it was in a male body and sometimes it was in a female body. And then every now and then it would repeat and it's like fell in love with somebody and then wanted to get back to that body that it was, like
yeah,
conceptually cool and showed it was such a genius novel about like
yeah,
showing just the different life experiences that everybody has, which again, tapping into the qualitative research side of things, like
yeah, definitely.
people are really interesting.
People are really interesting, and everyone has a story to say
Yeah.
or to tell. I think
Yeah.
that's really okay. What is your favorite word, Karen?
Okay, so I don't even have to think about this because I have always loved the word serendipity. And it because first of all, just say serendipity out loud.
No, I
It's
know
fun.
serendipity. That's why I'm
It
laughing. I'm like, it's cute, it's
serendipity.
fun.
Everybody likes it. Everybody who's saying it right now.
I feel like skipping
Yeah,
or
I
like
know. It's such a great word. It's upbeat, it's light, and it also has that great meaning, right? Of
Mhm.
kind of those just serendipitous surprises in life, things
Yeah,
that happen that you're like, oh, what a wonderful, unexpected thing that just happened. So
yeah.
how can you not like that word? It's
I
gonna be
think it's a
everybody's
perfect
favorite.
word.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, I really
Email
feel
me
like
and say
doing
my
this.
favorite too. Yeah.
Yeah, I really feel like doing this.
Yeah, yeah. I know. It's a good word.
It's
It's a good
it's
word.
a unicorn word. I think
It
that's
is. It's
it
great.
is a
Yeah.
unicorn word. What is your least favorite word?
Least favorite word. It's funny when you said no before, it's related. My least favorite word is probably impossible.
Yeah.
I don't believe it. I don't believe that things are impossible. I believe that all things are possible either with the right solution. It may not look
Mhm.
exactly like you think.
Yeah.
The solution may be different than you think it is, or
Mhm.
gosh, the challenge may not even be what you think it is. But
Yeah.
I just don't think that things are impossible. I just don't like
Yeah.
that word. It's too limiting, and it
Yeah.
shuts down problem solving.
Yeah, and
And
I
it's
think
similar to no. So when you were saying no, I'm like, yeah, it's
I
kind of
think
how I
there's a
feel about
difference, but there
impossible.
is a difference between impossible is not someone telling it to you. I feel like no is someone telling it to you, though. There's a bit of a difference if we
I
get
know, but
really
you know why my
quality
answer
into it.
wouldn't be no is because I do sometimes embrace a good no, like, "Yeah, no, I can't do that." So
Yeah, I love the saying. So I have it on every year. I do a vision board, and it's a video and whatever. Anyways, overshare. But
it's
um,
fine, all good.
I always do this. What is it? No is a complete sentence,
Yes, exactly, exactly. So I can't
and then
hate a word that I'm like,
and then
and
my
by the way, and the
husband
finger has
always
to
kind
go
of.
up. The finger
Yeah,
has
and
to
my
go up.
husband always comes in because I've been with the same boy for 27 years, and so
Yeah.
this lovely boy that I still find very cute,
Aw, adorable.
comes in and pokes me and kind of goes like adds a little post-it to it or whatever the format it is, and goes, "Yeah, only you can. You're the only one that can use that sentence
Yeah,
this year. You can't hear it," which is
yeah,
always like the ongoing joke.
absolutely. I'm
Yeah,
with you, I'm with
but
you.
I get it's interesting though because if someone tells me no, or if there's a legal system or something, I'm very ethical, but I think it's the business owner kind of entrepreneurial spirit that I have like deep
Yeah,
seated into me. I
yeah,
get really motivated
yeah,
somehow
yeah.
when something
Well,
is
and in the world of problem
impossible or
solving, it's just say, "How might we?" Or, "In what ways might
yeah,
we?" Or turn it into
voila,
to constructive language, like,
yeah,
let's just not say no, let's just say, "In what ways might we make this happen?"
yeah, and what if?
So, yeah,
I like
and
the
what
what
if.
if, yeah, and what
Exactly,
if, yeah.
exactly, yeah.
And then the last one, which is, really the parting thought of, sparking inspiration, which is really what this podcast is all about and where it started 2 years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah, yeah.
Which is what is the best thing a mentor has imparted on you that still to this day guides you?
Oh, that's really interesting, because something came to me the second you said it. Um, Look both ways when you cross the street is what I'm about to say,
Mhm.
and, and it was given to me during a time of great distraction. And it's a really it's of course literal, look both ways when you cross the street, but
Yep.
it's also kind of metaphorical for be really mindful about the decisions that you make when you're making
Mhm.
them, and kind of taking information from all areas,
Yeah.
so let's you know where you're going, you know your direction, but let's not have blind spots. Let's make sure we're looking all around at things. So again, yeah, like metaphor of look both ways before you cross the street, folks.
Yeah. I really like that too, because it's also this notion of your freedom stops where someone else's starts.
Yeah.
So it's this notion, like good quality loves it. There's always a Venn diagram somewhere at one
Yeah, yeah,
point
yeah,
in any
yeah,
project. But
yeah.
I think it is that notion of bubble. You can be in your bubble, you can do your thing, but be mindful that you do not exist in the vacuum. Like I think there's
Exactly.
also that as well.
Yeah,
That's part of it. Make sure you factor in everything when you make a good intentional decision,
yeah,
but factor in people and factor in the others as
yeah,
well.
because your actions will have consequences,
There's
right?
a
And,
huge domino effect.
somebody else might have to step on
Yeah.
the brakes, somebody else, might get in a wreck, like, you
Yeah.
never really know what's gonna happen there. So
Yeah.
you're not just crossing the street in your bubble, right?
No, and I mean,
You're
there is this notion it doesn't mean you have to people please as well.
right.
Like, you can strategic play chess and sort of be 2 steps ahead, 3 steps ahead and sort of navigate and say, "No, you're gonna stop because this is gonna happen and this is"
Yeah,
but so you can influence,
yeah,
and progress, so
yeah,
you don't have to sort of fold and accommodate, but
yeah,
I
yeah.
like that.
I
It's
love that you ran with the metaphor, thank you.
always.
That
I'm
was good.
always
It
up
made
for a
it
good metaphor analogy. Love
yeah,
those.
yeah.
I
It's
think
just
my favorite one lately is, and amidst the last 5 years of our lives and so forth, I think there's this notion of I really got a lot out of, like, watching Ted Lasso for some reason,
yeah, yeah,
which probably like a lot of people, but there's this notion of, be a goldfish, which still to this day kinda stuck with me. Maybe because I'm raising a teenager now, but there is
yeah,
this notion of, act like a goldfish. Keep
yeah,
going, keep at it, yeah, which is
yeah,
really nice.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, great lessons in very simple ways. Yeah, I
yeah.
love it.
Yeah, me
Thank
too.
you so much, Karen. This was simply lovely. I'm sure we've sparked inspiration. I think you had some great, great insights to share. So thank you so much, and see you soon for another episode, people.
Thank you
Bye.
so much for having me as well. Bye, everyone.
Bye. And bye, Maggie. Thanks for tuning in to Insightful Inspiration, your trusted market research podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with your network, and we'd love it if you could leave a review or rating on Apple or Spotify. Thanks for tuning in to Insightful Inspiration, your trusted market research podcast. If you enjoyed this episode,